My name is Susan Zoller, and I'm part of the talent that we have here, and I serve as a minister on staff. We have a lot of talent, and I'm very happy to be part of it. So, you all have your mandalas, right? Keep them handy, please. Last week, Reverend Annette talked to us about mythology. And since childhood, I was interested in mythology. And about 20 years ago, my interest was renewed from a series of events. Because after years of living in Decatur, I moved to what was then the dreaded Cobb County. I did. And with years of experience teaching science, I was very surprised that I didn't have a job. Science teachers are actually low in number and high in demand. So I was puzzled that the school system had not called me. So I started thinking about what I really wanted, and being a good religious scientist, I started affirming it. And here's what I said, and it was what I really wanted. I am a great spiritual teacher. I am a great spiritual teacher. And suddenly the school system called. I was offered several jobs, but one I took was in a gifted high school program. I did not have any idea what they taught in the gifted high school program, but it called to me. And I was about to learn what they offered, which was quite varied. The draw was, and get this, I got to teach world religions. I planned on being a great spiritual teacher, and there it was. Now, another OFG, and OFG is euphemistically opportunity for growth. You know what euphemistically means? I'm going to say this in the nicest way possible, but it's not very nice. That's what it means. Euphemistically, the opportunity for growth came because my schedule also included history of the English language. Now, talk about growth. This was an immediate need for preparation, and I dove in because, as they said to me, you know you got 2 weeks before school starts. Well, I started with the classes, and in the language class, we got to the point where we were studying medieval literature. And we were reading parts of the Mist of Avalon, which is the Arthurian legend told from the feminine point of view. And I wanted to mix it up a little bit, so I went to the library and I was looking, and lo and behold, I found the first Harry Potter book. It was very controversial. There are still people who think it is of the devil and promotes witchcraft, and they don't want it in the library. So I was pleased in Cobb County to find Harry Potter on the shelves. Now, I read the first 2 pages of the book, and I was absolutely captivated. That book is one of the most creative I have ever read. Now, I'm going to give you the basic story of it, in case you haven't been one of the few people on earth who hasn't been familiar with it. And here's a spoiler. You know, they always say, spoiler alert. I'm going to give away some plot points. So basically, here it is. Harry Potter is an orphan, and his parents were killed when he was a mere infant by the evil Lord Voldemort. He is now in wizarding school, and he is amazed to learn that he is a legend for having survived the attack that killed his parents. And that attack was carried out, of course, by evil Lord Voldemort. And Lord Voldemort was so feared, they wouldn't say his name. They said simply, he who must not be named. He who must not. They were so scared of him, they would not say his name. And he wants ultimate power. And by the way, that ultimate power includes getting rid of Harry permanently. And he believes that doing this will help him to live forever. And he also believes that he will be made even greater by living forever. And so he divides his soul and puts it, various pieces, in objects. And the culmination of this saga is Harry has to go. Isn't this exciting? Harry has to go out and he has to find and destroy these objects. and he doesn't even know what they are. But when he does this, he is going to save the wizarding and the non-wizarding world. So these Harry Potter books are sagas of eternal struggles of good and evil, and they're told very well. The story revolves around the meaning of today's mandala and the topic of self-unification. They really do. The whole story is a drive for that. Now, as David told you, mandala is a word that means unity, circle, completeness. And the one you see here, you can look at yours right now. It contains symbols, every mandala does, that are going to help us join our inner and outer parts together. It's going to help us access the unconscious. And the very center point always represents the experience of oneness and wisdom. So just give that a glance. Now, experiencing our oneness is truly self-unity. It's understanding our divine nature and our physical experience as well. And it's about incorporating the two. And the struggle to do this is throughout hundreds, and I do mean hundreds, of pages of Harry Potter. Now, Harry yearns, he truly yearns to fill the void that was left when his parents were murdered. Professor Snape is not a very nice person. He has unrequited love that led to bitterness that seeps out of every pore of his body every time he does anything. It does. And, you know, Voldemort is incapable of love and or empathy. And his need for power leads him to fragment and give away his very soul. Now, what it comes down to for me is they seek the fulfillment of the mandala. They want the essence of their oneness, and they're going to do what it takes to get it, whether it's nice or whether it's not. Now, when we don't have wholeness, we feel incomplete, we feel lacking, we feel divided, and we have a drive to do whatever it takes to unify ourselves, don't we? Have you ever felt that? No, just me, okay. Belief in division is very ancient, it's very modern, it's eternal. Our current day isms of whatever, sexism, racism, ismism, whatever. Now, they're seen in Harry's stories as differences between the magical people, the wizards, and the non-magical. And there is a fervent and destructive belief among some in the magical world that the two should never mix blood. Never. In fact, they should just be banished. And permanently, like that invisible realm Avon was speaking of. And so they should certainly also never share magical knowledge. Certain ancient teachings are for them only. And deep beliefs of separation and segregation are throughout the whole story. Now, by the way, when I say we, I do mean we, and when I say you, I mean the universal you, which includes me too. I mean every part of this. So what you and I know today, and what physics teaches us, is that there actually is no separation. Everything is connected, and what appears to be me and what appears to be you, it is an illusion. It is an illusion. We simply don't have the physical capacity to discern these things. Our physical sense can't perceive the connectedness. But through science and math, we have tools that can detect it. And we're learning every day that the scope of our universe is totally connected. And we learn the truth about the invisible union that is always there. I think Avon must have, I think Baji must have read my talk because this is the field that she was speaking of. And our essence in this universe is that wholeness, that oneness, that circle the mandala has. We don't have to create it or work to achieve it. It's already there. What we have to do is access what we already have that we may not think we have. And we'll revisit this later. Now, every Harry Potter character is working toward realization of the circle and to feel complete. But my Lord, aren't we all? Really? I am. So Harry adamantly defends his idealistic view of his parents. And he is haunted by a connection he does not understand to he who shall not be named. Hermione, his good friend, has to know everything, and their third pal, Ron, just wants to be less of a dork. We all have our own issues, don't we? Now, in both worlds, the wizarding and the everyday world that we have, recognition of our wholeness and completeness is a continuum. You know, no one ever wakes up and goes, "Oh, I got it. I'm enlightened. I need to do nothing further the rest of my life." How many of us has wished we could wake up like that? Have we wished we could skip over those parts of learning and experience that are unpleasant? I know I have. You know, it's always a process. It's ongoing. And our struggles and the trials of Potterville are opportunities to develop knowledge, to develop our intuition, and to learn trust. Now, when the fertilizer hits the ventilator, which is yet another OFG, now you start to really get euphemisms, you and I aren't being tested to prove that we're good enough. We are not having to show anyone anything. We're not saying, "Oh, infinite being, God by whatever name, I'm good. Notice me, I'm good." No, that's not what it is. Our biggest obstacles that come up in life are our greatest opportunities. They are. They give us an opportunity to define who we are in every moment and become, in that moment and forevermore, what we desire to be. Now, looking back on my life, it seems awfully unfair. It does. Apparently, I have a lot of great opportunities to look forward to and that I've already had tons of. Now, and trust me, it took a while to understand all this. I didn't just get it just because I started coming to church. And if you look at today's mandala, now it's entitled The Cradle of Life. And if you look at the outer part, it seems to draw us inward. Everything is connected. Can you see that? Everything leads to something else. And it seems to be a womb to me. It's an invitation to the dance of creation. It's the conception of new life here when you come to that center point. And life as we know it is dependent on that process. Yeah, we are dependent upon that process. Constant creation. We are created anew every moment, whether we realize it or not. Every time we breathe, every time our heart beats, we're creating new eyelashes, new fingernails, new liver cells, new everything. And somehow, some intelligence designed a blood system, a circulatory system, that takes good things to all the cells and removes what's no longer needed. Isn't that amazing? So we are constantly creating. Now, not only are we part of this process of being creators, we are directors, because this is an important point. We don't control anything, we direct it. You got it? I didn't hear that. Thank you. I want to say it again because it's that important. We are not controlling, we are directing. We can't say our word and everything turns out just the way we want it. Oh, how many times I wish that was not so. And science of mind, or the basis of this entire teaching we have, says all thought is creative. We are constantly creating, therefore we're constantly having new life in all its forms given. Thought literally creates the substance of our daily experience. Excuse me. What we expect our influence will influence the outcome of what is created. So what we focus on and think about and feel, it creates. We don't get a free pass. No one came down from above in that old vision of God and said, there, Susan, I know you didn't mean that one. We should have happened a couple of times. It might have been frightening, but better than the line of thought that I was going with. Because it created, there's not an evaluation process. And if you look at this mandala, the cradle of life, it looks to be a flower. And a flower is a vehicle of reproduction. It's the sex organ of a plant, to be honest. Do you wonder why we send them to each other? Really? It's female. Well, it's the avenue of birth. This is the coming into the womb. Now, on expanded scale, the cradle of life is also our thought being transmitted into a receptive field of energy. I told you Baji read my talk. She's talked about this exact same thing. It goes out into an invisible field that is always responding. And it creates according to the foundation of our beliefs. Not just a random thought, but what we believe over and over, what we hold deeply within us. And that includes what we may not even know that we believe. Have you ever had that experience of realizing something, that you believe something, and it wasn't what you wanted to believe? You wouldn't be proud to share that. Hey, I really think this. I really believe this. It's something we don't always share. But it's nonetheless negative or positive, very powerfully creative. And coming from our consciousness, how we react or we respond does matter. Now, if you think about Potter World again, the characters, the giant Hagrid, the keeper of the magical animals, he loves his animals. Animals we would probably be horrified by. He loves them. He thinks they're wonderful. And he loves the students. Is it any wonder the animals behave for him and love him and the students flock to him? It's a reflection of his consciousness. Then there's Luna Lovegood, and if you've seen her, she would appear quite ditzy. But Luna is actually very centered, and without thinking about it, she takes her wand and tucks it behind her left ear, and she goes about her day and her life, and she is not very concerned at all about what anybody else thinks about it. She's actually very centered, even though she appears extremely flighty. Now, then there is Malfoy. He's not a very nice guy, and he continuously denigrates other students in Harry's class. He denigrates especially Harry because he's tremendously insecure of his abilities. We all know a Malfoy, don't we? Now, if we could see their mandalas, what is their real center, how they really come to completion, I wonder what they'd look like. Have you ever wondered what yours would look like? It was especially designed for you. I have. I was a little disappointed, but, I can paint another one, can't I? I can create another one because we're constantly creating. Now, mandalas are symbols of ultimate unity and ultimate reality. And that means that it's the unity of all of our thoughts, of all of our feelings, of all of our beliefs, emotions, and actions. We don't get a pass on any of it. It's the incorporation, actually, of a greater and more expansive way of experiencing the seen and the unseen. It's not thinking about experiencing it, because I think a lot of us think about something and we think we're experiencing. It's not thinking about it, it's actually experiencing that unlimited field of intelligence that's responding to us, and everything is created from. And you can call the field whatever you want to call it, Spirit, God, the Atman, Fred, whatever, because it doesn't matter. The field is not really very personally involved with you and me, but it's always there. Now, right here, right now, This very room is just vibrating with energy. You may not be able to see it. The air, which appears empty, is just radiating and shimmering with energy. If you could see it, sound waves would look like a little slinky going through the air. The light would look kind of like this. And what you could see, what I could see, if we could perceive this with this, the very walls, the floor are vibrant with energy and intelligence. Years ago, this is true, I'm not making anything up here, IBM photographed the wave of a thought of coming out of our brains. Because actually, we're radiating energy all the time. We're powerful transmitters, and we're also powerful receivers. It's like being the broadcast station and also being the radio that puts the news out. That's us. That's the way it works. Now, if we could just see that, I think we'd feel differently about what we're doing. And if we could see how responsive, that if everything that I thought suddenly pictured right before me, do you think that do you think that you would change your thoughts? Can you imagine? My mother always said, don't do anything you don't want to see on the front page of the Baton Rouge Advocate tomorrow. Can you imagine what it'd be like if suddenly every person in this room thoughts manifested? I hope they wouldn't be saying, please get her off the podium, but, they might. It might be, I'm wonderful. I'm having a wonderful day. Or it could be everything's going to hell and back in a handbasket. The field doesn't care. It's just going to respond. But from this is where the great diversity of life comes from. Because again, it is not a personality. Personalities oscillate. They change. But the field, the intelligence, the divine or God, is always constant. And as you and I are of this field, we are also of its essence. We can create, we can direct. Now, our awareness of this on its many levels is self-unity. And it happens every moment. It happens emotion by emotion, thought by thought, action by action. It's a constant creation. I don't like to think that all the time when I do something that I'd rather not have on the front page of the Baton Rouge Morning Advocate. But it's there, and it does happen. And if you want to see the result of what you've been putting out there, just look at your life. Absolutely. But what happens is that every moment then becomes an opportunity to define who we are, to choose. What you chose 2 seconds ago doesn't have to be what you choose today. I once told my students in world religions, if every person right now all across this world simply laid down their weapons, the war and the fighting would stop. And they said, that's never going to happen. That's just not going to happen. I said, and that's why it doesn't. Exactly that. Now, and we'll get opportunities come to us that are going to reflect what we've been thinking and feeling. The field gives it back to us. And it can come in the most unusual and unexpected circumstances and through some of the oddest people. It can. Don't be surprised. When you put it out there, it's going to return. But we can't control how it returns to us. But Reverend David, our senior minister, for those of you who may not know him, teaches us that we cannot have a question or a desire without the solution being made for us. It's got to be possible. It must yield, the field must yield solutions for us. So when any of us has this desire to be more, to do more, to have a greater experience, the way is there, even if we have no idea what it is or where it is. And how to get there seems impossible at the time. Because what we view as lacking or incomplete is an opportunity to discover what is already there that we may not perceive. Well, you may be thinking, Susan, honey, that's just real great in theory, but you don't know about my life. You don't know about, and here, fill in the blank, call it anxious, you don't know about my blah, blah, blah. Because how am I supposed to do this when something's at my bank account, my health, the government, the president is doing, and fill in another blank? We think maybe this or that has to happen in order for us to experience greater good. It's not true. You maybe think, okay, so where's my unity right now, Missy? Really. I have felt like Harry at times. He was sent out to go find something that he had no idea what it was, and he had no idea where it was. Isn't that something like our job description sometimes? Do you ever feel like that's exactly what's happening to you? I did. It seemed like other people knew the who, what, where, when, and why of something, and I just didn't have a clue. At times I've been an excellent bad example. But I have. Some of you here may know it, but discretion is the better part of valor. But things in my life changed. Through studying spiritual principles or science of mind, the basis of our teaching, we're taught we have everything we already need. So we just need to learn how to access it. Now here's the part. How to do so is very individual. There's no one set formula. There's no one set way. We can use meditation, we can use prayer, we can use intuition. They all work. But one thing I learned, it was a big lesson, to stop saying, I don't know. Do you ever say, I don't know? You keep doing that on Monday, and by Friday you'll know a quarter of what you knew on Monday. Keep on. The field is going to respond. So I replaced it with something like, something within me knows and knows it knows. That something comes to the forefront of my consciousness now. And it would. It did. It does right now. I taught myself to believe that what I need to know, say, do, experience is coming to me. And I say to myself, it's as clear as writing on the wall. It's as clear as writing on the wall. It worked. Things changed. What had been difficult became easier. What was impossible became possible. And suddenly, I knew what to do in one way or another. I'll give you an example. I decided one night that I was going to sell my van, that I wanted a car again. The next morning, a colleague of mine walked up to me at school and said, hey, I've decided to sell my car. Would you like to buy it? And it was a car I really wanted. It was, I wanted that Volvo. And so I said, sure. And I was thinking, that Volvo's a lot more expensive than my van. What am I going to do? And I thought, well, I'll think about it tomorrow. And I did. So I even went to the negotiation where he and I were going to sit down. I had no idea what the sum of money would be. And you know what it turned out? He said, I love your van. Let's trade and you pay me the difference. Okay, I said, that works for me. And we exchanged cars. We simply traded. I never had to even try to sell my car. So if you believe something is possible, it is. It is possible if you believe that it is. People have always been telling us how we can't do something while somebody is out there already doing the impossible. And we're left in their dust. The way to achieve something is going to be shown to you. It's shown to me. And how much we go through depends on how much resistance we've had to creating it. If you think something is going to be really hard, well, it is. If you don't think that, it just might not be. Because what we have and what comes to us is a reflection of the totality of our consciousness, who we are. And whatever we think about that's withholding our good from us, it comes up to be released. It may not be fun. It may not be pretty. But the ease or the challenge depends on the degree of our beliefs. So I have some strong suggestions. I do mean strong. 1, stop saying how hard something's going to be, how much work it entails, how long it's going to take. Because you know what my favorite biblical phrase is? Yea and verily, which means, okay, yes, times 1,000. That's what it means. The field is going to accept whatever we put in it, and it's going to generate accordingly. Affirming our oneness and claiming our knowledge actualizes its evolution. It comes into being. Affirming that we can create easily yields just that. And as David would say to us, to the degree we believe it is so. How things are revealed to us is individually gift wrapped in a way to get our attention. I don't know if any of you remember, but Karen Wolfson many years ago was our assistant minister, and she talked about she had treated for patients. And she said she had never stood in lines as long at the grocery store as she did then, and she had never waited on hold for customer service as long as she was doing. She wasn't being punished or tested. She was being given opportunities for patience. Absolutely. Now, if you think back to Harry, when he was presented with life or death situation, and trust me, there's a whole bunch of them. Voldemort is unceasing, I guess I should say, in his desire to get rid of Harry. But when the fertilizer hit the ventilator, OFG, Harry found whatever was needed to survive, to overcome, and eventually to thrive. He realized his abilities and his resources, especially those that came from an unknown realm. I mean, really, didn't you ever wonder how those spells work? Well, I did, if you didn't. It seemed to me they were spiritual mind treatment, just on a whole different level. Really. He united his inner and outer part, and he became the most powerful wizard known. He created love, he created his own family, and he created happiness. The obstacles did come up for him, but he had the knowledge in the way and the resources to deal with them. So I ask you, where have I fragmented ourselves? What led us to give away parts of ourselves? Did we think it would make it popular? Do you think maybe we'd look good in the eyes of God? God doesn't have physical eyes like this, except the eyes that you and I have because, we're part of God. Now, do we need validation? That's a big one, isn't it? Do we see no other way to do this other than giving ourselves away? Do we believe that the obstacles are greater than the possibilities? And you know what my answer to every one of those is? Yea and verily. Absolutely. So when feelings of inadequacy may come up, and they very may will be coming to you, and when it feels like our power is depleted, remember another biblical phrase, I was Southern Baptist, the phrase, lift thine eyes to the hills, from whence cometh thy help. In other words, get a bigger vision. Stop looking down and see greater. This is taught, I'm using the Bible quotes because I'm familiar with them, but these are taught in one way or another in the world's traditions. When you get down, do you ever stop and remember your successes and what they felt like? Stop right now. Just think of something you did that came out of chaos or seeming chaos that you had no idea how it was going to come together, and it did. How many of you can think of something like that? Oh, yeah. This is the way that it works. You might not be able to put all the pieces together to say how it came there, but if you look back, you might be able to. But it's not necessary. You can just count on the support. And if we can walk in the awareness that we are physical and we are spiritual, that we have an ability to transmit and that we have an ability to receive. Knowing this, we are in an energetic universe, even in this room, teeming with intelligence that responds to us. We don't have to stop and think about, well, it's been 5 minutes. Where's my spouse? Where's my new job? Where's my Maserati? Just trust in it, because when we start looking at all those reasons why it's not here, what are we putting out? Go to the foundation. We're putting out fear that it won't happen. You know, whatever created those magical spells and what gives us our desires and the ability to pray is the same force, that same field that yielded the results of the spell and the manifestation of our prayers. So let us believe in our innate abilities. The powerful wizards of fiction did not give half-hearted spells. People who are manifesting clearly and deliberately do not give doubting prayers. You know, how many times do we do something? Well, I hope that works. What's the real foundation of what's being put out? You know, both examples will yield, but think the power of the one that is given with conviction and knowing and from a place of personal power. The results have the opposite, the doubting, the half-hearted. They just pale in comparison. Now, let us stop giving pieces of ourselves away, trying to win the approval and the appreciation of others. If they're going to approve and appreciate us, they're going to do so. We can't make them. I have tried many, many times. Didn't work. Or if I thought it worked, it was really not worth the effort I went through. And stop allowing, you and I, we need to stop allowing our vital energy sources, our essence, to drip away, to drain away, living a half-fulfilling life, don't we? I mean, come on. We don't have to fear anything so much that we cannot say its name. Say your name, say my name, and say it with power, because it is part of the great I am. The I am that I am. And become aware of the contents of consciousness. Knowing that if the light does shed upon what comes to be a dark area, something we don't want to know others that we have within us, don't worry. It's just showing us where we need to have a greater knowing. It doesn't mean we're irredeemable. It doesn't mean we're essentially bad. It's just an opportunity to raise our eyes and get a greater vision and do and be more. Well, what if you say, Susan, you know, I don't really feel very faithful. Well, sometimes neither do I. Sometimes you'd think I'd never heard of this in a moment. I react instead of responding. But the thing is, I know and I come back faster and faster. What can you do? Affirm your faith. Affirm your faith and be aware of the evidence when it is manifesting in front of you and celebrate it. I don't care if it's just tiny, tiny. Celebrate it. Because you and I were put here to experience life in fullness. We are modern-day wizards, and we direct our power for good, healing the consciousness and the being of this earth and ourselves. No longer do we have to read about the accomplishments and philosophies of others. We create our own. I'm over having to have 50 quotes that somebody else said. I'm telling you what I think. What I know. We are modern-day shamans. We have deep knowledge of consciousness and how to direct it. We are. We're directors of consciousness. So, indeed, remember, we're of the Most High. We are already complete. It's time to know our divinity and experience the full realm of our self-unity. It is. After all, wouldn't Harry want it that way? Thank you.
Hi, I'm David Alt, and I simply want to say thanks. Thanks for taking the time to watch our broadcast here at Spiritual Living Center of Atlanta. We have a vision, and that vision is to reawaken all to their spiritual magnificence. And one of the ways that we are able to do that is through this very medium of broadcasting. So if you got anything out of this, if you felt in any way inspired, or if something spoke to you directly, then I extend an invitation to you to become a part of our family by donating. And there are many ways in order for you to be able to do that. One is to simply go to our website at slca.com, and there you will find all different kinds of prompts that will help you support what it is that we are doing here in Atlanta. One way is to become a pledger. That means that you decide on a monthly basis that you are going to help us with this vision. Another way is to donate through our management system called Fellowship One, another through PayPal, and another even easier way is on your cell phone. You can do what's called text to tithe, and that number is 404-796-7030. Again, thank you so much for your support, and I invite you to come back weekly to see what it is that we're up to. Blessings.